gears, page 10. Involving your members in decision making. Good to Great, as I said earlier, is a best-selling book on management written. Sold millions of copies. He studied 1,400 companies, found 11 that did it really well. In that, he dispelled one of the myths of leadership. One of those myths is the leader figures it all out and rides in on a white horse commanding people what to do. That's a tremendous myth. Those great corporate leaders were really facilitators. They engaged everybody in 3 core questions. Number 1, what are our driving values? Number 2, what are we good at? Number 3, what's the world need? I think those are good questions for corporations, but they're pretty good questions for churches too. None of us are going to be good at everything, so let's figure out what are we good at. None of us are going to have the exact same values. Some are seeker churches, some are traditional churches, some serve a geographic area. We all have unique values. You got to define those. What are we good at? What's the world need? Now, these great leaders did not sit on their throne themselves and dictate. They engaged everybody in that dialogue. That's what made those 11 companies outperform the market by a factor of 8 to 1. Isn't that interesting? This book has nothing to do with churches, but boy, I would recommend everybody read it because you learn how to manage a group of human beings. Good to Great. So, the core of that book was involve people in decision making. Here are 2 case studies, one from Grace Bible Church in Columbia and one from Our Lady of Lourdes in Harrisonville. At Grace Bible, they met for a long time in a former mortuary. This was not at all made to be a church. It was horrible. And it kind of felt like a mortuary. You know, you go in, you kind of feel depressed. It's amazing they survived it all.
It was like the catacombs.
It was like, maybe that's what it was. They should have hung stalactites, you know. But they struggled together with what do we do as a church? And they made their decision to move as a church. They designed their church together as a people rather than the pastor just dictating. And then when their vision was fulfilled, the most incredible thing happened. They grew by 40% within 12 months, which was, I just never heard of anything quite like that. People, you know what happened? Every one of them started inviting their friends and family to their church. Something wonderful is going on, and I'm part of it. They became in the pew evangelists just because they were so connected. You know, Gerald, going back to your question about apathy, man, that's how you kill apathy. Go through something painful. Have everybody be part of the problem solving. That's just wonderful. The other case study from Our Lady of Lourdes, where it was painful. It was not a good situation. And everybody was part of listening and involving and engaging in the problem solving. And look what happened to their giving. The number of those who made a pledge went up 59%, and the amount pledged went up 37%. This is like miraculous. And the bizarre thing about that is when I entered the church to help them through that, I thought they were going to kill me. And then I thought they were going to kill the former pastor. It was an ugly situation. But just engaging people in owning decisions is the best thing you can do as a pastor. I see it as an act of discipleship. It's facilitating discipleship. You can see some of the research that we've already covered below. But let's talk about methods to engage people in decision making. Publish an annual report, letting people know where their money went. An annual strategic planning process where you ask everybody to get involved in setting priorities for the year ahead. We're on page 11. A survey of how we can better meet your spiritual needs. A survey of ministry priorities. You know, there are 2 really good church analysis systems out there, Percept and Natural Church Development, where they've got thousands of churches who have participated. You can survey your church members and then compare your answers to other successful churches, and you can see where you're strong, where you're weak. You can also compare your answers to people in your geographic area to see what they're looking for. We did this for a Baptist church in Platte City, and we discovered there were a bunch of former Lutherans, believe it or not, Larry, looking for a church that had family recreational opportunities. And who'd ever guessed that in Platte City? You know, but we did this Percept study and we found that out. So, what do? That will affect your priorities. That's really my best idea, is engage everybody in setting priorities for the year ahead. When that worked for the church in Lee Summit, their giving went up 15%, just based on that. Yes, sir.
In an annual report, would it help or not help if you put in the levels of giving?
I think it will always help. I think there seem to be natural clusters of donors in every single church. So the number who gives 0, number who gives 500, number who gives 1,200, you can kind of do it by multiple of dollars per month, up to 10,000 above. And when you look at that, it's really depressing. And then I would publish right next to that, the average family household income in our zip code is X, so that people can see really well that there can be almost no one among us who's a tither. That's the first thing that people will discover. So yeah, good place for it. When you publish an annual report, it's really communicating the impact of our gifts on the world as a ministry impact statement. A monthly newsletter, Finance Council open forums, doing an online survey. You could do priority setting by ministry. These are all, there's a guy named Paul Turner, worked at a church in Raytown, who just did this beautifully. After worship, about once a month, he'd say, you know, final blessing, you can all go, no, but I'm going to stick around, I'd like to hear from you. He'd just come down off the podium, sit in a chair and say, oh, here's a flip chart, have somebody bring in the flip chart, and he'd say, oh, the floor's open, I want to know what's going on with you, what do you think, what are your concerns? Brilliant job. Just all he did was listen about once a month. Take about 15, 20 minutes, and he'd get chewed out once in a while, but he had a good finger on the pulse of what's going on with the church. Just engaging it, letting them have a sense of ownership. All right, now let me open the floor. What can you do at your church to engage people in decision making so that they have that sense of ownership? I know Dan can engage people in discussion about how we're going to improve the facilities. We can open the floor and ask them, how would you improve this layout, where the kids might go and what the foyer might look like.
And that has come across with the development of a new nursery and the addition of the $15,000 playground.
Well, there you go. So you ask the question, you get the answer. That's a natural entree to inviting people to sponsor something. Yeah. Other things, what else can you do to engage your people in decision making?
We do the one-to-ones. Every staff member meets with someone once a week in the parish. What do we have going for us? What do we have going against us? Where would you like to see us go? And we get together and just kind of weave a theme through that and kind of build up priorities.
That's great. So you've asked all staff members to do that?
I've asked them, yeah. Many of them do it, yeah. It's a part of the church community organization model, you know, how you change the society.
That's really a great idea. That's a great idea. Engaging all your staff to do listening every week. That's just a great idea.
We've been exploring a lot of options in our congregation. And Bob Dye over here and I were just talking yesterday about how we feel like we're a relatively small congregation. And we feel like our members are getting a little overwhelmed by the consideration of so many things. So we're going to be doing a retreat in January and invite anyone and everyone who wants to come, especially emphasize to our leaders, but to others in the church to come, where we will consider the various options in kind of breakout sessions. And way to pros the cons. And that's where we're really hoping to get people involved in the decision making and also in the ownership of some of these projects. Not all of them are capital kinds of projects. Some of them are people projects. But we need that support.
That's a great, I would encourage everybody to do that. An annual planning retreat, schedule a couple hours on early Saturday morning or Sunday right after.
Most of the day on Saturday.
Most of the day on a Saturday or Sunday right after church. It's a great idea.